Okay. Here we are with this is going to be sort of hopefully a shorter episode installment of this tutorial series. This is Tenacious Baseball League channel, Tenacious Strat, and so what I was thinking of calling this 3A because I had originally intended to do this in the previous episode, but I ran out of time, so I'm just going to go ahead and call this episode 4 since it's actually a radical departure. There wasn't much linking these subjects together besides these two were linked together. Defense and the X charts are definitely a little bit outside of those realms, so we're going to go ahead and talk about this time. So what's to know about the X charts in defense? So defense, a player is known defensively by their ratings and basic. So let's just start with defensive ratings. We'll go through basic and advanced here. I think it's easy to neglect defense when you're considering your team. Defense is important. On the other hand, it kind of comes up depending upon your pitcher's, how many X chances show up on the pitcher's card, and also how lucky you are when you roll, whether you get on the X chances or not, because the X chances are really where the defensive ratings come in. So, and that's what I'm saying, the X chart. So, for instance, let's just start with, if you get a fly, right field, X. So that's what we're talking about by, or if in the basic game, it would be like ground ball to B, X. So these are X chances, and what they mean is that these are dependent upon the people playing these positions. It's a way to influence the game by the choices you make for who is in the field. And it's not only so, and when I say choices you make, it depends on your what you're doing in a project. So if you're doing a solo project where you're replaying, you don't really get much choice, and what you're doing is more or less seeing what that team's defense looked like in that particular season, because you tend to use the same lineups. And so a team that has a lot of poor fielders is going to make some more errors, or going to let a lot more hits get through or fall in and stuff. So whereas if you're in a draft league where you are doing kind of like a fantasy draft, and you have a lot of good players because it's kind of condensed down into, let's say, who knows, between 6 and 12 teams from 30, so you take sort of the best players, your defense might be pretty good, but you may still have to have reserves that you use guys, and so you may have to like drop your, and not only that, but some guys who are good at offense are not so good at defense, and you may sacrifice their defensive capabilities because you want their offense. So that's where having defensive ratings really allows for that extra aspect of the game, where who you put in the field can have a dramatic impact on the game. So it doesn't always happen. It may only happen a smaller percentage of the time, but it might happen enough. We're talking a lot of times in standings where a few a win here or there could actually mean the difference between you making the playoffs and not. So, you really have to consider whether or not using that, that guy who hits some home runs but doesn't always do well on the field, whether you're going to keep him in the game late in the game. So let's take a look at a card. Let's take Scott Van Slyke. This side of the card is the basic side. As you can see, he is rated for 4 positions: left, right, center, and first base. Each of those gets a different rating on the basic card. Now, let's do it this way. So we'll start with basic. one rating covers both fielding range and glove / throwing, we'll say throwing accuracy aspects. Sorry for the scratch here, but see, so what they've done to try to keep things simple for those that are trying basic, and it helps speed up play and whatnot, is so that you try to boil it down into one. So let's say Scott Van Slyke was playing in left, he's going to be a 3. Whereas if he played in center field or at first base, he would be a 4. So also, let's put it over here on the left side since we have space. So generally speaking, for range, we'll say basic, and then we'll go advanced. So so we'll just say the general rating, and then we're gonna say range, because, like I said, they are kind of boiled down into the same rating for basic. So 1 is excellent, 2 is good, we'll say, 3 is average. Now, I would also say that in basic, once you start getting down to 3, things are getting pretty, they're less than average. I'd say the average point for basic is right about here, whereas for advanced, the average point is right about there. Then 4 is poor, we'll say, and then 5 is, we'll just say bad. So it's kind of a sliding scale. The higher the number, so you can see that Van Slyke is a better fielder in left and right at a corner outfield position than he is. Oh wait, I don't have it in front of the camera. So because he's a 3 here in the corner outfields, he's better there than he is if he plays center field or first base. And what that could be is agility, speed, whatever. He can more easily get to the balls that he has in right. Could also be smarts or instincts. Some guys have better instinct to field. They have more experience, so they're going to be better. So as you can see here on the advanced side, in left and right, he's a 3, and so it's basically the same ratings for those. Somehow I marked up my card there. I guess I was pointing at it with my pen. So again, let's go back to basic. So if you look here, so in basic we get this chart, basic fielding chart, and so the outfield is all the same on this chart. So as you can see, so for a 1, everything is an out until you get down here. You have 1 chance out of 20 at a second base error in the outfield, so 2 base error, and then you got a couple chances here. So it's really 1 in 18, but then you have 2 that you have to re-roll. So you still end up with like a 1 in 18 chance of the error. Otherwise, it's all outs with varied. And so what you need to do as well, so if you had a 1 for a center fielder and you go and it's out with a -1, you come down here to read. It's runners advance a base. Out 5, runner on third scores. So that's kind of like the B chance that we were talking about before. The other runners hold. So you come down here and you follow what it says here in these numbers that follow, double 2. So the out 1 moving 1 base, that's like a fly ball A. So, but as you go across the sheet, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. As you go down this sheet, you can see that you get to 2, you get another air chance here, you get 1 here. That's a single and an error, but still a lot of outs. There's a double, so that reflects range. You have a single and a double right here in the middle. So, and then you get over here, and you come all the way over to 5. So you do get a 5. I guess there are some 5s as well in the basic. I thought there weren't, but I guess there are. And you can see single chance, double, single, air, triple, double, double, single, singles, single, single. I mean, you could just see how as you move across this sheet, the players get poorer and poorer. So, so for the basic fielding chart, that's what you're going to get. Now, in basic, what you would do is you take, so let's say you get the fly ball, right field X. So Van Slyke's a 3. all you have to do is roll the D20, and you get a 3 and a 3, and you go to the chart and you say, okay, I take outfield, 3, 3. Okay, that's an out with the 4, and that means that the runners have to hold. So that's how that works. The basic fielding chart has two sides. We have the catcher's card, the outfield, and then the other side you have the corner infielders and the pitcher are combined into one, and then you have the two middle infield, which catch probably the most of the X chances in the game, I would say. Now let's go to advanced. So now this rating is a little bit more, has a little more complication. There's up to 3 ratings for each position for a player. You're gonna have, I'm gonna use some letters here. We're gonna go R, then you have a parentheses and an A, and then we're gonna go a little E, which is just, you'll see in the ratings it has a little E, and then we'll go with an X, where R is the range. That's the ability of the fielder to get to a ball. Usually involves, again, speed and agility, and also a bit of instinct as far as the position goes. A equals the outfielder, or only the outfielders and the catcher have an arm rating. So on an infielder, you will not see an arm rating. And then X equals error rating. Okay? So what that means is that this one rating for Van Slyke, we'll say if he's in right field, that's the 3 rating. It gets boiled down. Well, no, this is boiled down. This is split out into 3 different facets of the player. His ability to get to the ball, ability to throw the ball in with good pace and accuracy, and then the error also has some accuracy points in the throwing as well, I would say, but it's also the ability to actually, make the play, catch the ball, cut off a single and maybe hold them to and not let the ball dribble through their glove or whatever. So let's just say you get, and so let's take a look at the advanced X chart. This time it's broken down into more facets, as you can see. Now the only one that's condensed is the corner outfield. Both are on the same chart there, and you can kind of see. You remember we said fly ball B, fly ball C. You've already seen those in a previous tutorial. If you go across here, you see how many more. You get a 5 in the corner outfield, and you roll in this, and you're going to be giving up some hits. So, but the upside of this particular situation is that usually you find those corner outfield X chances pretty rarely. You're more rarely than the others. Like I said, your shortstop and your second base are going to be used most, and then you do get some first and third, and you'll get some pitcher, and then the catcher X, which is a little bit different. I'll finish up with the catcher X. It's a little bit special in a way, but so let's just say we go to Van Slyke here, and so he is in right field, he's a 3. Now the arm only shows up for the first. His arm doesn't change in the outfield. He can go between positions with the same arm rating. So he goes right field, he's a 3, -3 for an arm, so 3 range, -3 arm, E7 for an error rating. So what you do, once you get that, so you say, okay, he's playing in right. I'm going to fold this a little bit, even though it's probably not a wise thing. So he's a 3 right fielder. So now you roll the D20. Now, what happens here is that these charts, they only go to certain numbers. There's a middle section for each type of player that it will not work, that the D20 won't decide it. So for a right fielder, if it's 1 through 7 or 14 through 20, it will be decided by this chart. If it's between 8 and 13, that's where we start using the error rating. Okay? So the first test is rolling the D20 to find out whether it shows up in these. So we'll roll it. It's an 18. It rolled off of there, but you can see it's an 18. So in this case, that would have been a shallow fly ball, and nobody could have moved. Fly ball C. If you ever have any questions, again, down here, well, actually, you'd want to go to the basic strategy chart. That's where all of the B's, A, B's, and C's, but you can also find any extra information you need. That's where you can see the 3 stars is the 3 base advancement, types of errors, and some of this stuff. So there's also some information on T ratings, which we'll talk about another time. But this also tells you, this is a tutorial as well. If you read through that, some people find the rules difficult to follow. So that's why I'm doing these. So let's say that you rolled this. Let's try to roll it again. There you go, 11. So let's say you did 11. Now what you need to do, because it's in this middle section, you need to go to the E rating. And so now the E rating is a little different system. You don't use a D20 for that. You can see he's an E7. So what we do is we use our D6s. These, the 2 that are the same color will determine most chances. You roll those. You actually roll all 3 at the same time. This one guy really only comes into play when you roll a double 1. So if you roll 2 1s, you get the 2 addition product from those 2. The sum of the 2 here. If they both end up as 1, and sometimes there's some other numbers, but here you can see that then it matters what's on the white die. If you roll a 2 on an E4, if you rolled a 1 to 4 on the white die, it would be a 3 base error. If you rolled a 5 and a 6, it'd be a deep fly ball. So he's an E7. Let's check it out here. We'll roll these. That's a 9. You add the 2 greens, and that's 9. So if you look at E7, and you go here, this is the sum. If you were between a 3 and a 6 or a 12, that would be a 2 base error. If it was a 2, you'd again have to do the white die, which the white die there was a 2. So that would have been eligible for an error. Here it had, because it was a 2, 1 or 2. But anyway, what we got was a 9, which falls in the 7 to 11 range, which means it's a fly ball B. If there was a runner on third with less than 2 outs, that would be a sacrifice fly. Otherwise, it would just be a simple fly ball out and nobody could advance. So that's how the X chances work. I have Beltre here. We could just go through a quick one with him. So he's a 3 E20. Not a 3. He's a 1 E20. So what that means, so like I said, infielders do not have arm ratings unless they are utility kind of players, and they'll have an outfield position where they then will have an arm that's only to be used in the outfield. Now, the 1 means that Beltre is very, very good with his range. Not many singles will get through him, or balls down the line that are within reason. They're not going to get through. But he's an E20, which is not the greatest of error ratings, which means that once he gets it, he's liable to maybe throw it away, or maybe will bobble it, or who knows what. So let's give it a roll with him. Now, what you'll see with the third base, because the chances are a little less, they boil it down a little bit more. The range only matters. It matters about, I don't know, probably half the time compared to an outfielder. So if it's 1 to 5 for a third baseman, or 15 to 20, it will factor in on that card. So let's roll. And again, the D20 it's a 15. The D20 is equal chances across all the faces. So a 15 does make it in a 1. So anything in the 1 column here is a ground ball A. So that's a double play ball. Really, if you can get a 1 player at your positions, you're going to do well. But because as you can see, they're not going to give up any stray singles. And actually, especially infielders, what they're going to do is they're going to catch you a lot of ground balls. You might, if you give up a single, if your pitcher gives up a single, and you get one of these X chances, you're, especially like second and short, you're almost assured of a double play, which is Which, again, let's also think through this in a way. You, as a hitter, as an opposing manager at the plate, if you get a runner on first, you may also want to consider the how good the middle infielders are. This is something that you may even want to scout ahead of time in a game and say, you know what? Both of these middle infielders are ones. So my chances of hitting into a double play go up quite a bit because they're a good fielding team and they turn a lot of double plays on the X chances. So I might want to be more aggressive in stealing. We'll talk more about stealing in another tutorial, but again, you need to come up with strategies. Think through the different situations that could come up. If I have Omar Infante for the Royals as a 2 second baseman, range-wise, and Alcides Escobar is a 1, and then Moustakas, I think, is a 2 as well. You're just going to hit into a lot of double play balls with these guys. And so it should make a good manager think to himself, man, even here I get, I get 4 A's off the third base 2. The shortstop A is going to get everything, or shortstop 1 range is going to get everything, is going to be a ground ball A. And even if it hits the E chances, it's going to be ground ball A's. So it's, maybe I need to be more aggressive. Try the hit and run. Try stealing. We'll talk, again, hit and run's another thing we need to go through one of these days. The nice thing about hit and run is that it will often give you the chance to steal with guys that you would have already considered stealing with, and doesn't really cost you much. So, all right. So that's defensive ratings. I'm not going to go into the super advanced in this one because I actually like it better, but I want to kind of condense into super advanced one day. What else? Was there anything else that okay, defense. It's more defensive stuff. Holding runners. Let's just, this is kind of off the cuff. I wasn't thinking about doing this. But, so, we haven't talked about stealing, but one thing that a defense can do to counteract a team with good speed is to hold the runner. In basic, it's a little bit strange because, let me get the rule book and go to the basic rules. You have to decide whether you're going to hold the runner or not, and the hold comes off the catcher rating. So it's a little, to me, it almost doesn't make much sense, but it's the mechanism they give. So if you have a catcher, well, let me get out here because I'm using the Dodgers as my team in the field. We'll just try to stay constant and get to Yasmani Grandal here. So his arm is a 0 arm. So wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the basic holding. So what happens is that so he's a 2. So in basic, you find that he's a catcher 2. You subtract 3 from the runners. So in basic, holding. Well, I don't want to go into too much detail about the stealing, but the point is that holding runners is a trade-off. In each aspect of the game, whether it's basic, advanced, or even super advanced, you're going to get an advantage defensively in keeping the runner close. You're going to get where you take away from that runner's ability to steal. You're going to make the D20 roll head in your favor a little bit more. But, so I'm just going to take my thing here and wipe it out. Pay no attention to this. So I'm just going to write down here, holding it's a two-way street. You get advantage of better odds on D20 steal, and also in a I'm gonna put a plus for these. Plus advantage on runner advancement. We already saw that in the previous video. You add 1 if you're holding a runner on to. Wait a second. Now I'm wondering where are these cards? Did I do this wrong? I'm worried. Right. So you hold them on. You hold a runner on, and we saw this in the last video. You get to you subtract 1 from the calculation of the running, the base running. Whereas if you're not holding him, you have to add 1. So you basically get a 2-point advantage. Now there's, for every advantage, there's the disadvantage, and so the disadvantage is that the single with a plus sign turn into, or wait, that's wrong. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Ground balls with a plus sign turn into single 2 stars. Okay? So what happens is that, and this is going to happen off the pitcher's card. Okay? Actually, I'm wrong about that. It's going to happen off the hitter's card. Sorry. And so it can happen in different spots too. Like for Grandal, it's in the 6 and the 2. Well, this one doesn't get hit very much. So when you see, basic, you see here a ground ball, second base A. If you hit that 311 and you're holding the runner on, that's going to turn into a single chance. Okay, and there's another one here, and there's one here on the 3. On the basic card, there were 2 pluses. For some reason, they decided to go plus. Not sure. On the advanced side, they boil it down to a single plus, and so you just have to pay attention. If there's a plus after it here, that's the downside of holding a runner on, is that you're liable to... basically what happens is that your range goes down because your fielders are distracted by the runner. You've told them to pay attention to the runner, and because of that, any dancing that he does or whatever, it's going to take them away from doing their primary job, which is getting the ball that's hit to them. So that's where there can be some dilemmas. So in the advanced game, so in the basic game, it's still, it's still pretty pronounced, but I mean, in both and so in the super advanced, just real quick, the nice thing about super advanced is that these pluses aren't, they're only counting for, there's a whole nother, let's get through this real quick. You got holding runners, and then the other thing that you have, I'm going to turn this over, is infield in. So this is another option in basic and advanced that we need to talk about, because this is going to counteract. So the positives of this is bunting. It gives you the chance to come home and get the guy on third and nail him, as opposed to gives a chance to go home with the throw if there's a runner on third. Okay. Another plus is that when you go with the sack bunt or sacrifice, it costs the batter a rating level to bunt. So he gets a little bit worse because you brought the infield in. Okay? Again, The minus of it is that these GB pluses become hits, single 2 stars. So again, you make a trade-off here. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I'll tell you what, there are times when it does happen, and it makes you want to pull your hair out. But there are lots of other times when you play this right, you play it this way. You try to make sure that you have a chance at the plate, and you are able to cut guys off. And a guy at third ends up being thrown out, and it really kind of takes the heat off of you. So we got some questions here. Let's see. So, well, there's Dark Shadow, there's Benny, and there's Tribe Fan. That's, okay, so let's see. I gotta look through. Bunting. See, Rule 1831 about bunting with the bases loaded. Well, let me take a look at that. Since Tribe Fan is going exactly, he points it out exactly. 18.31 with the bases loaded, corners or infield position in. Oh, there you go. Thanks for mentioning that. So, in the advanced game, that's something else to be. Now corners in, I'm not sure that there's actually. I don't think you can go corners in advanced. I've gone back and forth. It only mentions it in the super advanced. No, I guess it does say it right here. Corners in. So the funny thing is that they don't really talk about corners in without the super advanced gray being grayed out. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation, but with bases loaded, no, and infield in, 2 downgrades in rating for the hitter. So anyway, so that's I'd say that's about it for I mean, it's tough when you start going into a lot of detail. I guess my point is for this is that this is hopefully going to help you learn how to use the defensive ratings when you see an X chance. It's going to help you understand, especially in the games that I'm playing here. But if you are playing your own games, what the X chances are about, what these different ratings are, and then as far as holding the runners or playing the infield in, what exactly advantage you get out of that. So, so Benny Blades goes, I thought holding was the base runner's rating. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to do a different video, maybe next, and we'll talk about stealing, because there's two different aspects to speed. There's stealing and then there's running. What you end up having to do when you hold a runner on. What I say is better odds for the D20 steal. Maybe what I need to do is just mention that there is a modifier when you're held that brings down the steal rating. So each time there is a starting place for the stealing, and the holding brings that back some. It tempers that. So, if an A is 1 to 15, without being held, they're a 1 to 13 stealing if they are, as a base rating. So that's what the holding the runner does. It's a nuance again, and also, but again, it also allows you to hold up the runner a bit when it comes to advancing on hits and things. No, Benny Blades asks, holding a runner is different than holding for stealing. No, it's the same exact mechanism. You say, I'm holding the runner. So what that means is that in both cases, in that case, not only are you making it less likely for the runner to steal, because there's a calculation for that, you're also, in the case of a hit, you're also making him have to subtract one in that calculation that we did in an earlier video, rather than add one. Okay? So it's the same hold that covers both of those things. But see, again, those are both advantages that you get as a defense by doing that. But there is a disadvantage, and it can be pretty steep depending on what your situation is. I had a game. It was the game with the Dodgers, I believe, that I had a single with a plus come up, or a ground ball with a plus come up when, they were in the ninth inning, and it extended the inning. It put another base runner on, and it just kept it going. And so, you're basically going to live by the sword and die by the sword in the case of holding a runner. You want to try and prevent him from moving. It becomes even more important when you have a catcher like in our series that we've had here, Kurt Suzuki's one that has a +2 arm. That's a real tough one to deal with if you're in the defense. If you don't want to hold runners on. And another thing that gets confusing about this, guys, is if you watch a Major League Baseball game, you're going to see the first baseman sitting there holding every runner on, unless it's like right at the end of the game and they have a lead or something. Then they might let the guy go. This is different because this is a strategy that they've imparted into the game to try and help add strategy elements, to give you choices to make, especially if you're playing head-to-head against somebody. Solo, this becomes a little tougher because you're making the decisions for both teams, and you want to make sure you're doing right by both teams. Having said that, you may also have some teams that you are going to treat differently. That's why I came up with this system of holding that I've talked about in another video, because it allows me to kind of like set it based on the catcher's arm and based on a random roll. So, as opposed to, I could do that for every hitter. Or every base runner. I want to make sure that I don't let too much bias get into it, because it just kind of feels weird when you start saying, I'm going to do this, and then you don't do it for the other team or whatever. But each team's different, so I hope this is explained to Benny. And again, for others, let me turn it around here. Just going to try and adjust. There we go. Adjust this so I can talk straight to the camera. It's really not meant to be extremely difficult, but it does come across that way because you're dealing with a lot of different calculations. So I'm trying to do these in single installments, and try not to bombard with too much information. But bottom line is, when you're playing, when you're interested in defense, defense does matter. It doesn't always matter, but it does matter in enough games that you just want to, especially if you're playing in a league where you're drafting and you're playing against other human opponents, you would want to try and build your team in a way that includes good defense. Some of your best players are going to have that as an element of their game. Adrian Gonzalez in this game in our league has had, his 1 rating has come in handy for them a number of times, especially the middle infielders. That 1 rating is, DJ LeMahieu for the Rockies. He's a vacuum cleaner, so he's going to pick up a lot of stuff. So that's about it. Again, questions, anything that you'd like to, I hope I've dialed this in for you, especially the Benny Blades who's watching this live, about the holding. It's just, it's a tactic to try and keep the base runners honest, but it does come with a bite. You can sometimes it'll bite you. So you just have to be careful. It makes you so that you're just not automatically saying, "Oh, I'm going to hold every runner on." It can get you. So gives you a decision to make. So thanks for watching this tutorial. It's gone on a bit long here, but these topics are deep, and I hope that this has provided you some information. We'll do the next one, I believe, on stealing, and if I have time in it, maybe some of the alternative mechanisms for doing strategy in this game, such as the bunting and such. So thanks a lot, Strat-on, guys. I'll have a game a little later this afternoon, so thanks.